Open up, Colorado. It's 420. Time to grind and burn.
This is not your son's stoner show.
Welcome to the Cannabis Community Project broadcast.
Good evening, welcome, and hello. This is Cannabis Community Project Radio. My name is Kate Mullen, and I am filling in for Brainstorm. I know I can't fill his shoes, but I'm going to do the best I can to bring you the most information I can with regard to cannabis entrepreneurship, cannabis business, and cannabis legislation across the country, and not only in Colorado.
Looking for some cannabis products this year? 2017 is going to be the boom year for products. Find all the best ones on our website at the Cannabis Community Store, www.cannabiscommunitystore. We have all the products from Cushly to Herb Box, Canna Relief, and everything else cannabis related.
We'll be talking to Barry Gainsburg, national cannabis lawyer, in just a moment, and we're going to be talking a little bit about a subject that is near and dear to my heart, smoke lounges or cannabis consumption clubs as they're called here in Colorado. The reason that we're going to talk about this is the Colorado State House began the discussion on the regulation and guidelines for cannabis consumption clubs or smoke lounges as we call them here in Trinidad. The reason that this is an important topic to me is because, well, my business partner and I own a smoke lounge in Trinidad, Colorado, and we came by a smoke lounge sort of in an accidental way. We started out with a head shop, but our building turned out to be such a beautiful place, and with a big backyard, we thought it was an excellent place to gather with friends and enjoy legal cannabis in a private, grown-up, upscale setting that we have entertainment and things that tourists would like to be part of. And so the whole reason that we have it is for a social club where people can gather and enjoy cannabis. And it really is a social club, because you'll find that when you go into any smoke lounge, that cannabis are very friendly people. And where you might start out at one table, you end up at a table with a group of people talking about wonderful subjects, talking about art and music, politics, and nobody's fighting and no one's arguing. And the beautiful thing about cannabis clubs is that nobody is getting drunk and throwing up in the lobbies and otherwise making a mess and making a fool of themselves. So there's a big heated discussion with regard to cannabis clubs, especially in Trinidad, because of the policies it's called MED, Marijuana Enforcement Division, has outlined for consumption. And what we've found is that where Marijuana Enforcement Division gets involved is that they want to be sure that the dosing of the cannabis that might be gifted in a cannabis club is properly dosed, is properly accounted for in their financial accounting as well as their organic accounting. And as far as that goes, how do they make money off of cannabis consumption clubs when the client is not buying cannabis there, they're bringing cannabis in. So the questions become, how do you quantify enough tax cannabis consumption clubs? How do you quantify how much more cannabis people are bringing in? How do you quantify the enjoyment? As far as what we can see, it really looks like it's just a giant lobby or a giant place to gather, much like a Starbucks, except without the Starbucks coffee. Several cannabis clubs in Colorado have started getting coffee bars, I guess, to sort of emulate the feeling that you get from Amsterdam in the cannabis clubs that Amsterdam has. However, they're very different from the cannabis clubs that America, or certainly Colorado, is beginning with. So we wanted to begin the conversation about cannabis clubs to get people thinking about what is right legislating or regulating cannabis clubs. What is correct in how do you tax a cannabis club? What is correct on what the guidelines are if you're gifting cannabis within a cannabis club? If you're not gifting cannabis in a cannabis club, how does that work? So what are the sanitation guidelines for rental bongs? What are the sanitation guidelines for hookahs and that sort of thing? So I think we all need to perhaps consider what needs to happen to move forward. Because if we're all cannabists, and if we're all cannabis entrepreneurs or cannabis business people, we need to not only be thinking about what's in front of us in the first, days, weeks, months, or years of our businesses, but we need to think about what can we do now that is flexible enough as far as regulation goes that will allow enjoyment of a cannabis club by adults without being overly taxed, without being overly monitored, or without being overly observed. So those are the things that we want to talk about. I'm very excited that today we're bringing on Barry Gainsburg, national cannabis lawyer. He's originally from the Bronx, and he is now in Miami and spends a lot of his time working as an activist in Jamaica. And we'll be talking to Barry in just a few minutes. With those things in mind, I wanted to begin the conversation on cannabis clubs, regulation and guidelines concerning cannabis clubs. And we would also love to hear from you at any time, day or night. Get in touch with us here at Cannabis Community Project Radio. My name is Kate Mullen. I'm filling in for Brainstorm, and we'll be back right after these messages.
Have you ever seen a business or a product and thought, what a sack of that is? I could do a better job. Well, let us help you get there. Make 2017 your year of cannapreneurism. Contact me directly. Brainstorm at cannabiscommunityproject.com.
Let me go on a microphone with no control, straight from the soul. From the 303, we be blazing new paths, born and raised in Colorado. I'm blessed, believe that, respect my roots, all the ones before me, and that's the truth. They taught me knowledge of a better way, and day to day, I remember you, Take me out into the world, with all these different faces, from all these different places. Then there come a breed, with common greed, and they march, control, manipulate. They wanna put us in a box and tie it all up, I ain't no slave to authority. So, while they may, I'm gonna be who I be. Every day with my best, honest living with love and respect. Now they telling me the craziest things, talking about who I should be. Man, I'ma just be myself. Tell you what, all is well. Honest living with love and respect. Now they telling me the craziest things, talking about who I should be. Man, I'ma just be myself. Tell you what, all is well.
Welcome again to Cannabis Community Project, and I'm filling in for Brainstorm. I'm Kate Mullen. So joining us today, I'm proud to introduce Barry Gainsburg, who is a lawyer in the cannabis industry, a nationally known, very accomplished lawyer in the cannabis industry. I'm going to let you talk to Barry about that. Barry, say hello and tell us a little bit about what you do and what you bring to the table.
Well, thank you very much for the kind words, Kate. I deeply appreciate it. And I appreciate your work in the cannabis community, too.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Now, I'm a cannabis attorney. I have a background in securities work for over the last 20-plus years, which means my ex-wife is very old. And I've done securities work for a long time. And the way I got involved in the cannabis industry really is when I was in college, I had written a paper that I thought that cannabis was misclassified earlier on as a narcotic by simple definition. Then later on, you got the Federal Controlled Substance Act that did schedules and stuff. But again, from the very beginning, they had always been trying to misclassify it. Anyhow, The only kind of marijuana or cannabis law at that time was criminal defense. So being a member of NORML or doing defense work, public defending. I never did that. Again, like I said, I did securities and transactional work. What happened with the evolution of medical and recreational cannabis where there were regulatory filings. So I had the honor and privilege to make some of those filings and work on those, and I got turned on to the industry that way. So my background and skill set doesn't come from a criminal side, but instead it comes from a securities industry side. So I have a business background. So I bring a different skill set and set of eyes to what's going on in the cannabis industry. And in addition to that, with the difference being my business background, the skill set from being in a regulated industry requiring licensure, regulation, enforcement, and education. Same thing from the security side. So if you're dealing with the SEC or FINRA or state regulators, again, that same skill set is real helpful from a business perspective and point of view. So it's not simply about criminal law and whether someone has possession or not in cutting deals. It's a very different outlook. It's cannabis business law.
So let's talk about cannabis consumption clubs for a minute. That just makes it sound like a group of people dying of tuberculosis, but nonetheless, cannabis consumption clubs, what do you think are the biggest issues or hurdles that they might have to overcome, being that they are so varied and so diverse?
So the triple C's, the cannabis consumption clubs. What a horrible.
It is.
But here's basically, it's a cannabis social club, right? So imagine for a sec, if I could come to a state and I could buy alcohol, but there wasn't anything like a bar for me to engage in social interaction. So if I buy it, I've got to go back to my hotel room or back to the house, but there's not really a place to socially gather. I think it's a good idea, obviously. People need a place to socialize. Now, again, I don't drink, doesn't mean you shouldn't drink, but again, I still like to go and socialize. So if I can go have a water or something, and it would be even better if I could smoke cannabis while I'm sitting out there.
But how are they going to regulate them? How are they going to make money off of them? Because if you look at a cannabis consumption club or a cannabis enjoyment club or a smoke lounge, let's call them smoke lounges for lack of a better term,
sure.
People are bringing in, at least on many business models, people bring in their own cannabis, BYOC arrangement. And so that cannabis club is not providing or serving cannabis. So why would they have to be regulated at all?
Well, here would be the point, Kate. Obviously, there are concerns where you have cannabis consumption going on, just like if you had alcohol consumption going on. There are certain safety measures you want to make sure that are taking place in a socialized situation. You want to make sure places don't burn down, right?
Right.
So you've got safety concerns. You've got all other sorts of concerns when you're dealing with cannabis.
But you're not going to be overserved from cannabis, though.
No. But that's not really the point either. To some extent, it depends what kind of motive you're going into the business with. If you're doing it to promote social causes and provide a social forum, then what you can do, obviously, is charge the membership fees. And that's the customary way to do it, to support it, right? The second way to do something like that is if you can align it with a dispensary. So you actually can purchase the product there. Just like when you go and smoke a cigar, you can sit in the smoking lounge part of it, depending what state you're in, obviously.
Yeah.
But many states allow that as well. So a similar structure could be adopted, but that's a matter of the state allowing that business to go through and in what particular models. Again, I think California is a lot more apt to use that kind of social model where people are paying membership fees. But if allowed eventually, people develop those into social scenes with music, with clubs, with things they should be doing in Jamaica as well by incorporating the whole element into it.
Well, you had mentioned dispensaries, and there was a conversation here in Colorado where cannabis clubs might be attached to dispensaries. And so what I read, and this may or may not be current or true information, but what I read was that if you purchased a joint or a cone at a dispensary, you could certainly go into their cannabis club and enjoy that cone or whatever cannabis product you bought. However, you could not leave with that cannabis product. You couldn't go in and smoke half a cone and then put it back into the doobie tube and take it with you. So that doesn't sound like a viable possibility. If cannabis clubs align with one dispensary, then it sort of limits their ability to serve the greater good, as it were.
I understand. So you've got to view it then again. Remember I was just discussing those cigar situations where they'll let you smoke in their lounge?
Yeah.
Because they're selling directly the product to you. And if you have a beer there, you can drink that as well. So that's more similar to what I believe you were just talking about in that smaller context. Now, if you're talking to a place that's public in nature, then you're going to have more concerns because they're not as tightly regulated with the state. This is a place where people are bringing their own stuff, so there can be no guaranteed what's actually coming into the place. And you've got other issues, obviously, that go regarding safety and other issues regarding that. But that's a different business model and structure as well. And again, perhaps at some point they'll incorporate where you can bring yourself in, just like if you were going to a movie and seeing a movie and you can bring alcohol in, or they will serve it to you there. I mean, again, you can see the scope of where this could actually go once it's carried through.
Representative Jared Polis here in Colorado has legislation before the House, I believe, that indicates that he has a desire to legislate or regulate cannabis as they do alcohol. What are your thoughts on that?
Wonderful, wonderful. That's a great proposal. That's an outstanding proposal. Again, in fact, cannabis is much safer than alcohol in terms of use. So if you would like to administer it the same way, I think that's fantastic. I think it's a better approach in some instances than using the pharmaceutical approach, which is very heavy-handed and expensive.
Why not just repeal cannabis prohibition altogether?
Well, that's an interesting question, and that comes down to the federal government. Now, with what's going on and with William Sessions as head of the Department of Justice, and again, I hate to bark it up and scare people that much, but again, that threat exists, and it's more prevalent now that the guidance of the Cole memorandums could be reversed or not enforced that way, right? Because they simply just serve as guidance. You know, that's not the law itself. In terms of that situation going on, it's real important for people to be aware, to run compliant businesses. And he is charged with enforcing the laws as are on the book. If Congress wants this to change, they could do it tomorrow. They could stop haggling, fighting over nominations and over the health care bill and over all sorts of things. And they could take 30 minutes and get this legislation passed through, making it no longer illegal or subject to the Controlled Substance Act, Schedule 1. They have the power to do that, but they choose not to do that, and that's a problem.
Do they choose not to do that because there is too much money to be made if they attach all these stigmas to it or attach all these, fees and regulatory costs? Or do you think they don't do it because they're not thinking that far forward?
Does a bear poop in the woods?
I think the answer to those questions is yes. So what would you like to tell everybody, Barry? Everybody that is listening, they're cannapreneurs, they're small business people, large business people, people that are looking to learn about the cannabis industry. I mean, $7 billion in the state of Colorado alone in 1 year. Good heavens, $10 million alone in the little small town of Trinidad in the corner of Colorado. What do you think? Here's a soapbox, Barry. Stand on it and tell me something.
You got it. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Less coal, more cannabis.
Less coal, more cannabis.
Those jobs are dead-ending. And I just don't mean coal. Listen, my stepfather used to be a typographer. He used to put words together on printing presses. His job was eliminated many, many years ago with computers. That's technology. That's what happened, right?
Yeah.
But you need to turn to different things. So alternative energy, cannabis. There are different fields that are here. They're ready to be utilized, and they should be utilized. We don't need coal. We need other things. So here's really my point. People need to run good, innovative businesses, which are well-financed. So here's what I tell you. Even if you run a business, right, if you comply with all the regulatory agencies and all the state agencies and get all your permits and do everything right, that doesn't mean you're going to run a good business. That just means the state is not, or the government is not going to shut you down. Just like if I run a brokerage firm, even though I have all the compliance manuals and I fill out all my forms and I get approved by FINRA, doesn't mean I'm going to run a profitable business. It just means the regulators aren't going to shut me down. So what do I need to do to run a successful business? I need to have a written plan. I need to know what my objectives are. I need to know how I'm going to use my proceeds. I need to know how to explain what my business does in terms that people can understand. If people can't understand what my idea is or how I propose to monetize it, nobody's going to invest in me. Also, part of the problem is if you leave too much uncertainty. When my kids go, hey, give me $30, I want to go run a business, I'm going to look at them and say, what for, right? I need some details. And maybe I'll say, you need $300 to do that. Or maybe I'll more likely say, you're not getting a penny. But I need to be able to gauge what is going on if you're looking for funding. And in addition to that, you need someone who can provide you smart business guidance, which isn't just legal, but basically saying, okay, if we want to do things smart and long term, this is how we should do things.
And so where do entrepreneurs or cannapreneurs find a person that would be qualified? How do you how do you discern who is qualified without spending, $200 an hour on a lawyer? How do you discern who's qualified to be your mentor?
That's an excellent question. Word of mouth is always excellent. Search the internet. The other part is, someone like myself, someone who does compliance, someone who gets published, someone who is noted. So again, when you have a certain reputation, that'll carry through as well. Those are the services I provide. There are many other people who do as well. I think they provide them in a different way than I do. And again, I'm not for everyone, and everyone is not for I either. Just because I do what I do, if somebody has money, doesn't make me a bus. I don't have to accept you as a client. So there are criteria like that. That's important as well. So it's a mutual relationship, not just a one-sided one.
Yeah. Well, let's talk briefly about 420, because that's coming up around the corner, and there's a lot of brouhaha with that. The states that don't have legal marijuana and the people that would like to enjoy a 420 celebration, are there any words of caution or any words of advisement that you would give these people that want to have a 420 celebration, say in Oklahoma or Kansas or places where cannabis is equally not welcome, or Texas even?
Indeed. First, let me say hello to all my Midwest friends. I know it's scary territory out there for you. Just be discreet. There are places for you to go. You know what to do. Be smart. That's all there is to it.
Call it something other than 420?
Yeah, even for 420 or whatever. But most of the time, just be discreet in what you're doing. Be smart and be careful.
And how can we best teach the kids that are coming of age in this difficult and tumultuous political time? How can we teach the kids to do their own research, to not be afraid to speak up? I mean, remember Shonda Bonda's kid got taken away from his mother for his extensive knowledge of the benefits of legal cannabis after he had moved from Colorado to Kansas. So how can we teach kids how to be confident and question and learn about cannabis?
Tell them the truth. I could go off for 15 minutes and speak about Babylon and the hypocrites out there, and it would just fill it up. The bottom line is this. It's just hypocritical. There's no rationale for it. There's no reason for it. The children need to know the truth. Everyone needs to know the truth. When you indoctrinate people in saying that, marijuana is evil, right, for madness, when you indoctrinate those people, and then you're willing to change course simply because it generates profit or money for you, it tells you about the whole underpinnings of the legitimacy of the prohibition in the first place.
That's crazy stuff. It is.
Yeah.
So what do you see for the future of the cannabis business?
I see careful growth. There's never just direct, straight-up progress. It comes in incremental steps. So we'll see what those incremental steps are this year. It's going to be very interesting, again, with Sessions in office and with what California is doing and Massachusetts is doing, and, even at all the grassroots levels. So I think it's going to be a real interesting year.
Well, we're looking forward to some big things happening. I mean, I've heard a buzz that New Mexico is supposed to legalize rec next year. Great things are happening. I was really surprised at how the election turned out this year with, I believe it was Maine came on with rec. I mean, rec is where the money is. So it's the future of America is the future of cannabis, and the future of cannabis is the future of America, the way I see it. But I want to reach out and say thank you, Barry Gainsburg, lawyer par excellence. Give us contact information where someone might be able to touch base with you and perhaps procure your services. How might they get a hold of you?
Very, very nicely put. Thank you again, Kate. It's been a privilege to be on the show tonight. Thank you for having me. You can reach me at www.barry, B-A-R-R-Y, Gainsburg, Gainsburg.com, and my phone number is 954-559-6853, and my email is Gainsburg, Gainsburg, at Bellsouth, BELLSOUTH.net.
Really appreciate your time, Barry Gainsburg, attorney at law, national cannabis lawyer, for being on Cannabis Community Project. Thank you so much for joining us here. Follow us on all the social media. We can be heard on Spreaker, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Tumblr, yes, even YouTube. Share us with your network and keep listening, Cannapreneurs. We'll see you next week.